welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. I come to you today on board the most amazing research vessel, OceanXplorer. It is the world's most advanced scientific research vessel and is on a multi-year mission to explore the waters of Southeast Asia and to help further global understanding of this oceanic region. This is one of the most biodiverse oceanic regions, yet also one of the most threatened in the world. So joining me on the show to discuss the work that they do here on OceanXplorer is Mattie Rodrigue, who is Science Program Director of the ocean exploration nonprofit OceanX, and also Associate Professor Dr. Maizah Abdullah, who is the lead researcher of the OceanX Malaysia Mission 2024. She's also a lecturer in marine biology and researcher at the Institute of Oceanography and Environment at Universiti Malaysia Terengganu. Welcome, both of you. Well, I should say thank you for having me on board this vessel. Goodness me, we had a quick media trip before this to really explore the vessel further. Mattie, maybe you can begin by sharing with our audience what life is like here on OceanX. In fact, I would have to say, what is the vision behind having a really scientifically advanced research vessel? What is the kind of objective of OceanXplorer?
Yeah, that's a great question, and welcome on board. So the mission behind OceanX is to explore the world's oceans and bring science and discovery back to the world through captivating media and education. And so represented in OceanXplorer, which is the operational body of OceanX, the vessel itself, represented on board are all of the core tenets of our organization, the science, the media, the education, and the technology. And so we travel all over the world on the vessel, working with local scientists, local partners, educators, storytellers, conducting groundbreaking research, and then not just publishing the papers and making the discoveries and doing the scientific work, but also telling the story of that work, creating short form films, long form films, doing live classroom streaming, bringing students on board, pretty much anything that we can do to really get people engaged about learning more about our ocean so we can know more about our ocean and hopefully act in support of ocean protection.
And so now you've just completed the Malaysia Mission 2024. Talk to me a little bit about what that was and how you brought a team of researchers on board to further your own scientific fields. What was that collaboration like?
Yeah, so thank you, Melisa. So we actually have just concluded 2 weeks of mission. We call it as Malaysia Mission 2024, where we came on board altogether 23 of scientists on board. It's a big number of scientists actually. So in 2 weeks of mission, we actually have conducted 3 main phases of research activities. That covers up to 4 major aims, research aims, with 8 research objectives. So there's a lot of things going on in this 2 weeks of mission, and we're glad that we actually be able to achieve all those objectives, as well as we actually did more than what we expected to do here.
Yeah. So walk me through what that was like. So you are off the waters of Pahang, and you are, let's say, phase 1. You're you've got kind of an exploration in mind. What you want to do. You want to go and get samples. What is that like? So you are living here on board of the ship?
Yeah. So we started the mission we came on board on the 27th of September. And we started doing the exploration for the phase 1 at the 16 stations where we set up from the coastal towards the offshore of Pahang waters. So we pretty much try to cover all those areas in Pahang waters, from the nearshore areas towards the offshore of the region of the waters in Pahang. In Pahang. So basically, in the first phase, we have focused our research on the planktonology and oceanography studies. So there's a lot of things going on. We went to wet lab, so that was where actually a lot of things happening. We collected a lot of samples. We conducted marine megafauna survey on board with one of the MMO, Marine Mammal Observer. We also collect a lot of water samples, plankton samples and also eDNA samples for the biodiversity of the region.
Okay, I want to go through all of that. So I find it fascinating. But one of the things that really struck me was why the need for a research vessel, right? Maybe the need to go out into open waters and collect the samples. But Mattie, maybe you can talk a little bit about why it's important that researchers are on site, or are on the exploration site while they're making these kind of scientific research.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons why at OceanX we think that bringing researchers on board to experience what it's like on board the vessel is we have a lot of technology developments out there, lots of robots doing really cool work and really important scientific work in support of our oceans, in support of terrestrial science, but there is no substitute for a human being actually experiencing the environment that they're trying to study. There's absolutely nothing like it. For example, Maizah doing her marine mammal megafauna survey and being up in our helicopter for the first time, doing those surveys. She's in our flight club now. Or somebody doing scuba diving and getting immersed in and actually understanding the complexities of the coral reef ecosystem. That there's no substitute for that. And so having researchers come on board and experience what frankly I get to experience every day at my job, but having researchers come on board and have access to the tools that we have, bring their own unique, incredibly exceptional expertise, their local knowledge of the area as well, and then be able to be immersed in the environment with all of our cameras, with the scuba diving facilities, and even up in the skies, looking for the animals that are so critically important to the ecosystem here. It is truly a once in a lifetime, hopefully not once in a lifetime, ideally not, multiple chances in a lifetime, let's call it that, to actually come on board and do that work. And so the collaborative spirit that everybody has when we're working together on board is also really key. So it's not researchers coming on and looking in their tunnels and silos and doing their work and then taking it back to their own labs. It's everybody working together for a shared, holistic understanding of the ecosystem, and that spirit is very much important and fostered and facilitated here on board OceanXplorer.
Dr. Maizah, you mentioned the wet lab. So what is it like? How is your kind of scientific process different when you are kind of in the lab, in the university versus being here on board the vessel?
Melisa, you know, I'm coming from UMT. We hold a huge responsibility to actually explore the ocean, and we've given that responsibility by the Ministry of Higher Education, of course. We are a niche university focused on exploring aquatic and marine sciences. We've been doing this before. We also have our own research vessel we call RV Discovery at UMT. But what makes it different with this mission is basically because all the facilities are equipped and well planned and well designed, we managed to get until the end of the results pretty much immediately. So that makes a huge difference. As compared to before, we probably use the research vessel to go to the field, taking water samples, but we have to wait to come back to the lab, to campus to actually analyze the data. And until then, probably it takes weeks or months to actually get to know what's going on in the ocean, in our waters. But for now, with this, having the opportunity to work on the Ocean they have equipped us with a lot of things. It's like Disneyland for researchers, when we came here. And today you collect the sample, by the end of the day today, you pretty much know all the information that you need about the samples that you take.
And the most important thing is that if it's not enough, you can go back and you can double check.
Yes, and of course, it allows us to actually, we set the objective, and whenever we have this kind of equipment and facilities, it allows us to expand more deeper towards the question that we first asked. So basically, it's hard to explain for now, with limited time of time, but what we actually did in this mission is actually we expand pretty much everything that we wanted to do firstly.
Wonderful.
So wonderful, yeah.
So the interesting thing about OceanXplorer is also, it's not just its kind of scientific research capability, but also how media equipped it is. Why is that such an important part of the ethos of OceanX?
So the media capability is just as advanced as the scientific capability on board. And the reason for that is because the science the science is fundamentally important, and expanding our shared understanding of our planet is obviously why we do this. It's incredibly important and valuable. But if we're the only people that know about what we're doing, kind of doesn't matter as much as if we can tell the story and bring that story back to the world. And so the reason why we've designed everything on OceanXplorer to be science and media hand in hand is to make conducting, filming, turning every room into a set, making sure that we can fully integrate a mini production team into every space, following along, understanding what the researchers are doing so they're telling the story of the research the way the researchers want it to be told, is really, really fundamental to actually bringing the story of those discoveries in real time back to not just Malaysia, but the world. And that messaging is really the only way that people globally will start to really see, okay, I'm invested in the natural environment, and I'm invested in the dolphins or the whales or the coral, and I care about those things. But once you actually see a human being, a scientist that's so passionate about what it is that they do and passionate about that work, and then maybe you can also see yourself represented in that scientist. That is really when people start feeling like they themselves matter and are important to not just understanding the ocean, but caring for it and protecting it for the future.
Right. One of the areas that I thought was interesting, so part of the work was also in ocean mapping. That was one of the areas that you focused on as part of the Malaysia mission. Talk to me about that, the importance of ocean mapping. Why do we need to map our oceans? Why is it important? Dr. Maizah?
So I'll start first, maybe Mattie can add later on. So ocean mapping is basically, it's hard to, we can consider ocean as hardly reached area. It's hard to reach, the bottom of the ocean, especially for those, freaking out with waters, and basically ocean mapping really helps the scientists in this case to understand and get to know what are the important ecosystem that pretty much established in the ocean, at the bottom of the ocean. So this, in this case, for the ocean mapping, we focus to actually discover the area or map the area near shore area for the coral reefs. So this area, we pretty much, people assume there's nothing much under the sea, but with the help of the ocean mapping, we managed to map around 8 square kilometers within 3 days, of the area nearby Kuantan shores. Then we found out that there are massive areas of turbid coral reefs established in these waters. So it makes a huge difference in terms of how we can usually eventually use the finding to advise the state governments, the government of Malaysia in terms of whatever development or planning that they have to conduct, within those waters.
So how is OceanXplorer equipped to help with the ocean mapping?
So OceanXplorer, so mapping is foundational to everything that we do as part of the scientific program, because if you don't know what's there, how do you know how to protect it? And it all starts with a map, and frankly, so little of the ocean is mapped. Only about 23% of the ocean is actually mapped. So we know more about the surface of the moon than we do our own planet, just saying. But the way that we do that on OceanXplorer is by both shallow and deep, what are called acoustic sonar systems. And so we use a system called a multi-beam echo sounder, which is essentially a sonar. It sends sound down into the water column. It hits the seafloor, and then the signal comes back up to the bottom of the ship, where we have specialized equipment that's listening. And then we have a software that visualizes that sonar reading in 3 dimensions. And so what we get is a really incredible high resolution map of what the seafloor looks like in 3D. So we can see the little reefs or a boulder or an underwater canyon or a mountain in some cases where we've been. And so in this case, we were using a mini version of that system on one of our smaller live-aboard tenders, and we were driving around in the shallower areas and getting those sonar returns, those maps back in real time, and actually seeing live that these were reef systems.
It's like discovering uncharted territory, right?
Exactly.
You're looking underwater to see the lay of the land. And on board this vessel, there's so many cool equipment. You can see behind us.
Disneyland.
You can see behind us a submersible that can take you down thousands of meters of water. But your opinion, Mattie, in terms of the most sophisticated and cool equipment it was the sequencing
Yeah.
machines. And I wanted to talk about eDNA, which is something that I had learned for the first time today. How we can forensically discover what the environment is like without having to observe physically observe the underwater, what it is like underwater. Talk to me about eDNA and why sequencing of it is important for our understanding of the ocean.
Absolutely. So eDNA, or environmental DNA, it's the genetic material that sheds off of animals as they move throughout their environment. So in this case, the things that we're looking at are everything from plankton to bacteria to fish to sharks to whales to whatever lives in the ocean. And as they're moving around, just like you or I, they're leaving a genetic signature. So we lose a piece of hair or leave a fingerprint somewhere, and someone, hopefully no one, can say, Mattie was there. Exactly, but for us, we're very nosy. And so we want to know who was there, what animals were there. So we can collect that eDNA out of water samples from the ocean, out of sediment samples from the seafloor, and actually make a map of everything that has been in that area. We don't even have to visually see that animal or that thing or that plankton. We can get its DNA signature, and we have confirmation, we have proof that it was there. And so with that, it's a really powerful tool where we can monitor animals that move in like high, very long migrations, or animals that are maybe a little camera shy, or outswim fishing gear or nets, or things that we only come out at night. Basically, it's a way of finding things that you wouldn't be able to normally find, and then being able to map that at high resolution. And the coolest thing about eDNA, in my opinion, is that it's a powerful tool that's also getting faster and cheaper pretty much every month that goes by. Just as we observed, with human health and the advancements of different technology to monitor human health, this technology is getting faster, it's getting more advanced, it's getting cheaper. And so now it's a great part of what we do in terms of capacity building, where we bring researchers on board or students and we say, okay, we're going to show you how to use the tools to monitor your own environment. And then they can be fully trained and then have access to the tools or the materials in a really less expensive way than a big research ship that's dragging nets around or maybe has subs or anything like that. They can just collect water, collect sediment, take it back to the lab, or even right there in the field, analyze it and be able to see a picture of what lives there.
Dr. Maizah, this is part of your second phase
Yep.
of your research? Okay.
Yeah, the first phase, we started with the first phase
Oh,
and
you started
second,
with-
yes,
okay.
as well. So Mattie was right. So basically, eDNA has been very useful. And I've mentioned that part of this mission as well, we wanted to, we also did the marine megafauna sighting survey. We wanted to know what are those kind of charismatic marine species that actually we probably, sighted during the survey. But given the limited time that we have, on board for this mission, that's why we combine both. So it's not that eDNA itself it's always good to actually combine both effort by doing the surveys, try to see, and take a photograph, or for the identification and so on. But that's why we combine with the eDNA as well. So we wanted to know around these waters of Pahang, where exactly pretty much the areas that certain kind of animals aggregate. For example, we know Pahang is very famous for billfish. So by having this eDNA analysis, maybe we can actually see if there's somewhere else that they go, out of this water. So very interesting information that we can get.
So you have, I'm sure, collected so much data from the mission.
We came back home with terabytes of,
and you
data.
probably have weeks, if not months, of research.
It's going to be years, Melisa.
Years of decoding that data
Yeah.
ahead of you. But what gets you? What are you excited about? Just
Yeah.
based on the 2 weeks that you were on board.
Definitely, we've got so many things going on in the mission, and huge data to work with, and we look forward to see, especially the biodiversity. Probably we expect to see new findings of new species or new record of the species, has been found in these waters. So a lot more stuff. We've got, as I mentioned, we've got 23 of researchers. So many things going on. Everyone's getting busy. So we hopefully that we can actually share more findings soon.
But that's the nature of researching the ocean. You can't just have one scientific field and one kind of silo outlook. It has to be collaborative, which is wonderful when you bring a whole bunch of scientists on board with different fields to discuss and work together. Right?
Definitely, Melisa, because that's why the mission is named as Marine Ecology and Ecosystem Dynamics. That's a lot. That means that we wanted to understand the uniqueness of the seascape of Pahang waters. We know ocean, there knows no boundaries. You know,
there are no borders to
no
ocean.
borders. The whale, the shark, they don't have any passport.
No,
you know,
they don't have a
I'm
visa.
Malaysian or whatever. So that's why the partnership. We not only collaborate with the local researchers, but we also are very grateful to be able to have this opportunity to collaborate with OceanX and having the opportunity to utilize everything on this OceanXplorer. It really makes a huge difference of the finding that we're going to get. Yeah.
So OceanXplorer works with scientists from around the world. So it's not just here in Southeast Asia. You've been everywhere. How does that collaboration work? I mean, the thinking is to go to work with a country and to build capacity with the local scientists there and then share the information? Is that
Absolutely,
okay.
yeah. So we partner with local science to achieve locally driven research objectives. So we work with universities, NGOs, government agencies in the regions that we visit and craft an overall research plan, a mission plan that encapsulates as many priority research areas, either in support of conservation or blue economic goals or sustainability goals, whatever that may be, so that we know that we can have the most impact with the tools and capacity building capabilities that we have, but also that it's directly in support of local and regional research and researcher objectives.
Why is that important? So it's not just kind of coming in and doing the work and then leaving again, but leaving a lasting legacy, leaving a kind of the capacity building. Why is that so important, you reckon?
It's foundational. We know that at the moment we have capabilities on this vessel that most governments globally do not have access to. And so what do we do with the time and the capability that we have? We try to maximize every scrap, every resource that we can possibly maximize on this vessel. However, there are experts working in every country that have dedicated their lives to the questions about their own backyard, their environment, their ecosystems. And so for us, it is an absolute privilege, but also foundational to maximizing the efficacy of our work in those waters to support local researchers who've dedicated their lives to these studies, but also who will have the most benefit and then the most impact within the local policymakers, local officials, and local conservation objectives to take what they've done on board and then to give that back to their communities.
Is that the plan, that once you have all the data analyzed, you have the evidence to then go to authorities, go to local government, go to federal government, and say, here are my policy recommendations for conserving the ocean.
That's actually my promise to them at the beginning of the mission, where they said it's not only for the excitement of the scientists. You know, scientists can be very excited doing new things, you know, explore new finding and so on. But eventually, we are doing this for Malaysia. I mean, it's not for us only. It's not only for the university, but especially our next mission is after this is to engage with the government, to engage with the stakeholders, NGOs, citizens, doing education from all the resources that we've got, the media resources that we have, a lot of things to make us busy next year.
Wonderful, so exciting. And where does OceanXplorer sail to next?
Yeah, so this is pretty much concluding the end of our operational year. So we'll head back to Singapore, and then we'll do some capacity building and events and educational events in the Philippines. And we've had such a great experience here, and so we're looking very much forward to hopefully coming back in the future.
Well, thank you both for having me on board. It's been such an exciting day, and I have to say I've learned so much about the ocean. I didn't think I could, but thank you for your time, and thank you for chatting with me today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Melisa.
Thank you so much for having us.
That's all we have for you in this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris, signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.